Welcome to the Curious Conversation Collaborative, a community for purpose-seeking entrepreneurs, leaders, and changemakers.
Listen to inspiring conversations with your hosts, inner leadership mentor Tessa Van Keken and business wealth coach Karen Ravel.
Hello. Hi, Tessa.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So this time around, we are just following up on a previous episode that we talked about transformation, the process of transformation, and the analogy of the process as being like a diamond that gets covered up with horse manure through time and then surrounded by a layer of polish. So if you haven't listened to that episode, I would highly recommend you go back and listen to that one first, because this is we just really want to follow on that conversation that we were having around that. And we want to talk today more about once you get into tapping into your inner diamond and letting your light shine, and what that actually looks like and feels like, and also why that's not the end of the process. So yeah. Tessa, I want to talk about your inner light, because that's what you specialize in.
Yeah, it's finding your light, shining your light. Yes. So I think first of all, like last week we spoke about it, right? You have the veneer and then you go through it. The veneer, you actually like it. Your ego likes it. Other people like it. Then you get through the difficulty of, let's call it what it is, all your shit that's there that you have accumulated, and it can be stuff from outside, but also your own maybe negative thoughts or anything that kind of attaches onto that. And it's, to be honest, it's like a house, right? If you put, every time you have dishes you don't want to deal with it, you just put it on the sink, then at some point there's a pile of dishes and you don't see the sink at all anymore, right? So whereas if you just keep washing them one by one each time, and again, part of that's a choice. Like, you know, it's fine to accumulate a little bit and then do the work, and sometimes you do it once and once, but just if you leave it too long, it might even get moldy and I don't know what, so it gets harder and harder to clean, right? So I think with that diamond, it's also like very often with self-development and even with coaching, right? In the West in particular, our whole mindset is always A to B, and even you hear that in programs, right? Like even as we do as healers or coaches, we do business programs on how to do your business. It's helping your client to get from A to B. And although part of that, if you look at what we talked about last week of that state of having all the shit accumulated and then the veneer, and then you help people to go from that state to the state where they have that diamond, that sounds like A to B. But at the same time, as you said, it's not the end of the journey, because whenever people ask, like, so when do I get there? Like, well, what is there? It's like, yeah, well, when do I have that diamond? And when can I let my inner light shine, be my true self, be fully the best version of myself? It's like, well, we can work towards that, but it's not an end goal. Like I often use the analogy with this, that I say to people, like, look, if you train to run a marathon, but you want to keep running, then you have to train and then you run your marathon, but then you can't stop. As soon as you stop, your muscles weaken again. You have to, if then like a few months later you want to run a marathon again, you have to start all over again. So mostly, if you're a runner, you keep training. You might certain times train a little bit less and certain times a little bit more, but it's an ongoing. As soon as you stop, it all goes again. And that's, you know, I actually don't run marathons, but it's also just physical health, right? It's with everything actually in life. When we look honestly, it's an ongoing journey. It's an ongoing process. It's not an A to B process, really. So I think, again, in spirituality, they talk a lot about, for instance, your mindfulness practice, your spiritual practice, your personal practice is polishing the diamonds. And that's like, we have to keep doing that, because if you stop polishing the diamond, first it goes a little bit dull, and then the stuff comes up again, and then at some point you're again in that stage where you go, oh my God, there's so much shit. Let's just do a little bit of polish on top and let's just leave it. So I think, yeah.
I really like the analogy of walking up, actually, Tessa, because you are so right. It's you can have this beautiful. It's like a beautiful piece of glass. You've got it there, and it's clean and that. But even if you leave it there and don't do anything, dust is going to accumulate on it, and it just gets that fine film, and then it will get dirtier and dirtier. So yeah, absolutely, it's a continuous journey, and. Another analogy we often use is this one about layers of the onion or the artichoke. Different people use different things. But I think, again, what you've said is transformation isn't a destination. It is a process, and there's always more work to do. And the way I look at it, or understand it from purely a mindset point of view, although I don't think it's just mindset, there's a lot of emotional attachment to it. But our ego loves identity. It creates a personality in order to keep it safe and keep it important. And when you start, and that is that veneer that we've talked about, the polish. When we start chipping away at that, the ego feels threatened.
Yeah.
And it is actually, as we start going deeper in, it is actually the death of that ego. It is going to die in that format. But then what happens is, as you go deeper, it creates we've basically gone into inner layer, and now the ego is kind of like reborn and creates a new identity. You've changed as a person. So you have got a new identity, but it's still got, it's still attaching labels to itself that keeps you boxed in, and that's the dirt that's reaccumulating. So therefore you need to do the work again, and that's where it gets frightening again, because the ego's going, oh, it's a new version now, but it's like, oh no, I'm going to die again. So, and this is the fear that always comes up, and it stops people in their tracks. But and this is why it is an ongoing process. So whether you look at it from that perspective, from a mindset point of view, or from, like you say, a spiritual point of view, and emotional, it's but we just have to know that we are going to be constantly coming up against a barrier. And it doesn't mean you get to a stage in your life, or a spot where you go, oh, I've arrived, and like nothing's ever going to happen again. And
I think in the spiritual world that would be called enlightenment. And actually you will even hear people like the Dalai Lama say that most people, like true enlightenment, most of us don't reach during our lives, right? Because, and we don't have to, it's not necessary. Like, enlightenment can also be this, again, it's this constant polishing the diamond. And I think, but I also, if you look at the diamond analogy, like if it's fully clear of everything, again, it's pure clarity. But that also means to keep that, again, we need to polish it, we need to keep it that way. But it also means we're clear to see. And that can feel a little bit literally naked, right? So we have a tendency, as you said, it's the ego part, but also like we want to be seen a certain way, because in that clear diamond, like our true self, in a way, like in my experience, like that doesn't mean everything is only good. There just is. So in that, it doesn't mean positive and negative are not the same way. So we're just seen as it is. And that's scary sometimes. So sometimes we again, but today I want to, I don't feel confident or something. I want to be seen as confident. So I'm putting on my layer, right? But then I want to hold on to the layer. I don't want to let it go again. And I think I actually liked your analogy with the glass as well, because I was thinking with glass gathering dust, right? If you polish it each day, you never see the dust gathering. Like there might be little specks, but they're not even visible to the eye yet. Whereas if you wait, then you see the dust. So I think this is also happening with our mind. When we see the problem of the layers we have accumulated on our diamond, then we start working on them. Because before that, we think it's not necessary. I feel good right now. I am calm. I have a calm mind. So why would I practice? Well, you practice to prevent that dust from gathering. If you wait till you don't feel calm anymore, you are stressed, yes, you can work on it that, and it works, but it's much harder, right? So sometimes our mind nearly needs, again, this reason to work on something. We think, why would I work on something if it isn't there? Well, you work on it so it doesn't get there. Right? And I think the other thing what happens with the glass is we could also say, I don't like polishing each day. I'm just going to put a cloth over it. But then you don't see it.
Yeah.
Right? And that comes back again, that if we are our true self, our true diamond, if we put a cloth over it, then yeah, it's true. You know, you don't have to polish it as much, but also you can't look fully out. You can't let your light shine as clearly because there's the cloth breaking your light going out, and things can't come in fully. Yes, you might keep negative stuff out, but also positive. It works both ways. So I think this is why these kind of analogies can really help you to see how that works for you. And I think it's not even just with this. I remember in the past when I did holistic therapies, I also did massage. And I said, look, in the West, what do? We cramp up and then we say, oh, my shoulders hurt, I'm going for a massage. In a lot of other cultures, it's very normal to get regular massage, so you don't get to that stage. But we nearly have this tendency, and again, it comes also back to what we talked about last time about being kind to yourself. I nearly only allow myself to look after myself when something hurts, whether that's physical, emotional, mental, instead of thinking, no, these like a massage doesn't have to be just a luxury. You can also see it as a prevention of getting to a state where your muscles hurt, rather than saying, oh no, I only can get that when I'm actually hurting.
Yeah. And I also, you know, I would like to bring it back to business and as well, because people often see this as, oh, personal development, and business is something, you know, just really practical. But it's like you said, often you'll get people, you know, mentors saying you need to, you know, go from A to B. But going from A to B will bring up all of this fear, anxiety, you know, guilt, whatever, all these emotions. And this is the same as breaking that veneer and going inside. So, you know, those people who are really successful in life, it's not that they don't have fear or guilt or, you know, anxiety or whatever. It's just that they are willing to face that, to see what's coming up and what's underneath it and working through it. Yeah. And I think that is the real key that a lot of people don't see. To stand up, to be a leader, to, you know, to be successful, you need to be able to own all the parts of you. And some of it you're going to like, and some of it you're not going to like, but you have to own that and face it and accept it as part of you. Yeah. And then accept why that part of you is there. You know, again, it will be there to protect you in some way. Yeah. But it doesn't have to rule, you know, every decision you make. So it's kind of like really understanding those different parts. I mean, again, maybe we can do an episode around.
I think this would be really nice for the episode, because what comes up for me is this idea of like, and maybe we can talk about that next time, this idea of like, again, that, you know, shit will still happen. Getting to your diamond doesn't mean, it's not about then making sure that never ever any shit comes your way. It's about how you deal with that. And I think Thich Nhat Hanh says it very nicely. He has a phrase that is said, no mud, no lotus. And I like that too, like lotuses come out of the mud too. So let's do an episode on something like that, how we also certain things that, again, it's not about avoiding anything that we deem or perceive as being bad or negative, because that actually, you know, again, the horse manure is needed for the crops to grow.
Absolutely. I was just going to say, yes, it's the fertilizer of life. So
yeah, so let's do an episode on that. I think that would be really cool. But I think for today, what do you think, is there any kind of easy way to summarize what we talked about, or to give a little takeaway?
I think just to be aware that it is an ongoing process, an ongoing journey. Like we said, transformation is not a destination. No. And whatever stage you're at, you know, it's not the end. You know, you're always a work in progress, but that's not that doesn't mean to say you have to get better. Yeah. You know, it's not about getting better, it's about getting clearer, getting clarity. And
it's good to have goals, but don't make them end goals.
No, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think turn the line into a circle or spiral.
Absolutely. Like that. That's the circle of life and the circle of growth.
Yes. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks, everyone. Again, if you have any comments, I know this kind of topics can actually, they can spark a lot. Bring up ideas or insights or questions even. So do share whatever you have to share about it if you want. And looking forward to talking to you next time, Karen.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you for listening. Did you enjoy this episode? Do share your thoughts and questions in the comments or send us a message.
Do you know someone else who'd be interested in our curious conversations? Please share and spread the word. You can find out more about us at karenravel.com
and tessavankeken.com. Tune in next week for another curious conversation.